Matt, today we're going to talk about how the seller signs their closing documents so that we can get them to the title company in proper form. So in the old days, the seller used to actually come to the closing. Now everything is pre-signed. So why don't you tell us what the first document they're going to sign and how to do that?
Well, it's the most important document of the whole transaction. It's the deed, and it transfers ownership of the property from the seller to the buyer.
Now, why does the deed say for $10?
Because legally, we have to have something that the buyer gives and that the seller accepts and receives. It's called consideration. It's a legal term, but in the end, we have to exchange something for the deed to be valid. So instead of telling everybody in the world how much we paid for the home, we just say $10.
And on our format, we have the deed signed on the second page in front of a notary.
Right, we do that for two reasons. One, so if we have to make changes on the first page closer to the closing after the documents have been signed, we can make those changes. And then as far as the signatures on that second page, if it's just you gotta be before a notary. You're gonna sign in front of the notary. They're gonna notarize your signature. You'll date it as of the date of the notary, and then you'll get the original back for us for recording.
What's the second document that we're going to have the seller sign?
It's usually the bill of sale. The bill of sale is something that transfers ownership of the personal property from the seller to the buyer. And we're also not going to give any kind of numerical value of that amount of personal property. So you're going to see the $10 again. How do you sign it?
In our form, you sign it on the middle of the first page, and again in front of a notary. And in the olden days, you would have an ice box that was going to be paid on store credit. Now we don't have that. We just use a Visa card or MasterCard, so it's no longer an issue. But as attorneys, we can't give up the old-fashioned ways of doing things.
So what if I agreed with the seller to buy their couch, but I didn't agree to do it as part of the contract to sell the home? Would the bill of sale have that information?
Usually on purchases of personal property outside the closing, it's just handled like a garage sale. If needed, we can actually document that on the bill of sale, but it's not necessary.
Great.
What's the next document, Matt?
It's an affidavit of title, and it's a really old, antiquated document.
What does it do for us?
It really doesn't do anything exciting, but we've been using it for so long that it's kind of belts and suspenders at this point.
Okay, so what does it do?
So it tells the buyer from the seller that we are conveying clean title today, that there is no one who has any claims or liens against the property or assertions. What else does it say?
Basically that there's no unpaid for labor or materials and everything's clean. But bottom line is the buyer is going to get a title insurance policy that really is a little more robust than this piece of paper. And we have the buyer sign it, and we have the seller sign it on the second page, and again, in front of a notary.
Well, here's a good question for the deed and the bill of sale and the affidavit of title. What if you and I own a home together, but you live in Montana and I live in New York, and we're not in front of the same notary? Can the signature pages be different?
Yeah, so in that case, if we're in two different locations, we'll have two separate signature pages and two separate notary blocks. So in either case, it could be signed and we don't have to be physically together.
Does it matter if you sign it on a Friday and I sign it on a Saturday?
No, that doesn't matter one bit.
Okay.